Welcome to Culture on Tap. We are a podcast that is about bridging the cultural gap one conversation at a time. We have myself, Xavier Bright. We have Dale Young right next to me. And we have our man behind the camera, Range Armentar. If you haven't already, please like, subscribe, and share on anywhere where you listen to a podcast or if you watch it on YouTube. Make sure to hit the bell so that you get the notifications whenever we have new content.
Yes, please hit the subscribe button so that we get more of those for the algorithm. Make sure to hit the subscribe button. Thank you so much. So, get to know your fun fact with Range. Did you know that Range played basketball?
I did.
He did.
I did.
He shot one shot.
Just one.
Ask him where he shot it from.
Half court.
That sounds about right.
Yep.
Got in the game.
You played basketball.
I played basketball in middle school.
In middle school.
I got in the game. There was still like, I don't know, a pile of minutes left.
so it wasn't like 3 seconds to go.
No,
let it rain.
You know,
He said a pile of minutes.
a pile of minutes left. And I was in middle school, and so I wasn't very strong, not very powerful. Didn't even, I don't know if it barely made it past the free throw line.
So it almost looked like a long pass.
Yeah, exactly.
I was about to say, you could go with a pass.
No, but
the coach
close.
took him out, and he never got back in.
Never got back in.
Sounds about right.
Yep. So
That
I
would
got in
be-
for a couple of minutes.
That was my initial thought whenever you said you played basketball. It's like, did you play or were you just on the team? Did you do something silly? And did you actually get into the game? But
I did. Yeah, I got in the game. I got a foul. I fouled somebody,
hey,
and I
always good.
made a shot. No, I didn't make a shot. I took a shot.
You took a shot.
I took a shot.
Say, you ain't make a shot.
Nope,
Yeah.
didn't make one.
Oh.
And then I
Yeah.
got out.
So
I didn't know that.
there you go. Fun
That
fact with
is
Range.
Interesting. Fun fact with Range. Yeah. Oh, that's great. But today is the day. We are going to talk about racism.
Racism.
And it doesn't matter how fast I try to say it.
It's still the same.
It's still the same.
Yeah.
Racism. Racism. Yeah, we're going to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to affect the outcome. But before we get started, this is a topic that we often talk about.
Very much so.
This is a topic that is near and dear to all of us.
Very much so.
And a lot of hard conversations have come out of this, but I think a lot of fruitfulness has come out of this,
Absolutely.
out of this topic.
Well, I mean, I think it goes back into our conversation last week. If you're going to have, for us, if we're going to have community, we've got to talk about the clear elephant in the room.
Yeah.
Like,
What's that?
well, you're black, I'm white. I mean, and you know, Eric's Hispanic.
Yeah.
Your wife's white.
Yeah.
In fact, you're the only black guy in the group. Well, my daughter's black, but she's doesn't have a voice. Like when I say it, let me rephrase that. She is autistic and is nonverbal. Right. She has a voice. They just don't come out with words.
Right.
So, but then Range's boys are Hispanic.
Yes.
All adopted.
Yes.
So we have a very eclectic group. So it feels like, how can you say you have community if we don't tackle the blatant, clear thing that we all needed? I don't think we could have community.
Right.
And I would even, this is a praise. I feel like you spearhead it and guide it well. I think you have to.
Yeah.
I don't think it could be me.
Right.
So
Or jetpack.
Yeah.
Little jet.
Yeah.
Spearheading
Yeah.
the. No, but we're going to talk about racism today. Wanted to start out with definition of what is racism. Right. So looked up this definition. Racism is a prejudice, discrimination, or antagonism directed against a person or people on the basis of their membership of a particular racial or ethnic group, typically one that is a minority or marginalized. The belief that different races possess distinct characteristics, abilities, or qualities, especially so as to distinguish them as inferior.
So
That was a mouthful.
So short version
It's go ahead.
discrimination against someone because of their color,
Yes,
for the most part.
so many words.
So many words. Yeah.
For sure. Any disparity with that? Any disagreements? Any comments?
No.
That definition.
No. No, not for me. I mean, I think about where I do agree with it is I do think racism is geared, and I don't want to go too far down this rabbit hole, but geared towards minorities. I'm not going to say it can never happen towards a white person, because I think it could, but I think it's very, very, very slim and few and far between. I don't like speaking in absolutes on most things. So,
Especially when it comes to this topic.
yeah. I mean, because I'm not going to say it's never happened.
Right.
Because it could. But I would say, for the most part, it's not.
Yeah.
So.
Blatant racism.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that needs much of a. I think it's a pretty clear definition. I think that our upbringing, as we kind of talked about in the very first episode, the interesting part is I probably was around more blatant racism than you were, but I didn't realize it because it's not towards me.
Oh.
Is that interesting? That literally just hit my head. Like I probably, which is crazy because I can remember. Let me rephrase that. I think I can remember. You know how when you're a kid, people tell stories enough that you feel like you see the picture, but they just painted it really well.
Right.
So I believe I can remember. We didn't live in this town. There was. I probably should leave town names out, huh?
Yeah,
that's probably better.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, and so we were back home in Mississippi, traveling from one place to another, and we went through this town, and I distinctly remember, or at least distinctly remember the story. I believe I remember it. It was a Sunday afternoon, and the Ku Klux Klan was literally having a barbecue in town square of this town that day.
Wow. Like
passing out flyers. And the crazy part was years later, I remember talking to someone else that knew about this, and they said the crazy part is a lot of people would come that didn't approve of it, but they just would come and hang out, which is absurd to me.
Yeah.
But to me, that is blatant racism when you throw a block party for white power.
Yeah.
I think that would we agree?
I mean, I don't know if you can get more blatant than that.
And I'm assuming you ain't coming.
I'm probably not going to come.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't recommend
plans.
it. Yeah. So, just so we're clear, we didn't go. We just saw it. But I mean, I don't think it has to be that blatant. I think there's other things that people have experienced that it's clear that it's blatant.
Yeah. What about ignorant racism?
Yeah, I mean, feel free to tell me you feel different on this. I feel like there's a lot of people that make, including myself, have made ignorant comments that are racist. And when we're addressed on it, we immediately feel like we're in the category of blatant.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of things that are said that are, and when I say ignorant, we're not saying you're dumb.
Right.
We're saying you're not educated in this area.
Right.
And I would even argue this is a very deep, we're probably not going there today. I think our society would rather us not be educated in this area. Mm-hmm. So, there's that.
Yeah.
But I think that there is a lot of things said on both sides that are very ignorant.
Yes.
Towards racism.
Yes. I would definitely agree. And just because we're putting a definition on it, right? Ignorant racism. It doesn't mean we're saying that, oh, you're an ignorant racist. It just says the remarks or the statements or things that
you're saying
or communicating.
You don't understand what you're
actually saying.
Yeah, you don't fully understand what you're saying. You don't the meaning of what you're saying is not the intent of your heart.
Right.
But I think it's important because I think people that are blatant racist, not that they can't change, they're way harder to reach than, I don't know if way harder is better. harder to reach
Yeah.
than someone that's making ignorant statements. I think that people that make ignorant statements again, too often assume that people are putting them in the other. Like, soon as you say that's racist, they immediately think you're putting on a hood and you're marching with the Klan.
Right.
Which is, I'm not even going to say it's unfair, because I think some people do paint that picture, and that ain't helping nobody either.
Right. No, for sure. For sure. So I think we can get into some personal experience right now. And as a white man from Mississippi and growing up a certain way, who were you when it came to this particular topic?
So I would have said, rewind 8-10 years ago, 12 years ago, and said to me, do you struggle with racism at all? I would have said no, like furthest thing, because in my home, using derogatory words towards minority was not okay.
Yeah.
Ever. However, I also grew up where things were just always around that were happening. And so I would have said I'm not, but now looking at who I am now, there's a lot of things I didn't see then that I see now. So yeah, I would have said, at the heart of who I was, it wasn't to be racist, but the tendency of who I was. Yeah.
What about now? Who do you feel as though you are now when it comes to this topic?
It's interesting. I went from someone that would have never thought I was to, and I'm sure me and you will get into this, to becoming friends, close friends with you. Because I would say, I had black friends back home and things like that, but it was still just different. And so becoming friends with you was the first level of change. Because we're like, okay, we're creating this community. And I felt like even then you were feeding some things into my life. But I think at that time in my head, I was like, how do I put it? He loves me, so he's reminding me, but I know this. Like, he knows that we're good. And then we adopted Ryan, and things went drastically different. The way people looked at us in public, the way questions that people would ask and thinking they're innocent questions, whether it was, are you going to raise her as a white child or a black child? Aren't you just so thankful that she has the opportunity to be educated? Like, just blatant, like, what country did you get her from? Yeah. Got her from Houston, Texas. We didn't go out of the country. And so just different things like that, and feeling the hurt, and then really engaging with you. So I went from not knowing what I have to you opening my eyes and going, man, this is something I do struggle with and didn't realize I struggled with. Yeah. To then not almost feeling ashamed to be white. Yeah. Almost hating it. Which you clearly challenged me, and like, God made you this way for a purpose, and there's nothing, like, it's still as beautiful as any other color, and and God's given you a voice to use in a different way. Yeah. And going from being ultra sensitive to everything everyone said to finding a place now where I'm just empathetic. Yeah. And want to hear everyone's perceived truth and help everyone get back to the gospel. Yeah. That's what I would overarch. So I went through one extreme, just because I guess it was one of those things where it's like, well, I'm not doing that, so I'm clearly not this. And then I'm like, oh, I am this, and didn't realize I was. So going from low, and now I would say I'm in a place where, like, I just want to learn, and identify when I still mess up, and know that I'm still a work in progress on it. Yeah. So what about you?
That's good. So I was I was taught from a very young age what I didn't even realize, but what was the Joe Lewis rule.
Hmm.
Joe Lewis rule was, never make white people feel uncomfortable. Um, don't show too much emotion whenever you beat a white person at a sport. In his case, it was boxing, um, just to protect yourself, right? And I distinctly remember there was a time I was playing soccer, and this kid got in my head, right? And I'm probably nine or 10. He got in my head, and I ended up getting in his face, and that was a no-no. To the point where my mom told my coach to take me out of the game, and she took me into the truck, and she had tears in her eyes. She was like, "You cannot afford to allow your emotions to get the best of you.
Hmm.
Like, you have to use your mind. You can't afford that." And looking back at it now, I understand what she was saying, and I saw the pain in her eyes because
There's no chance at that age that you can understand that.
no, and I saw in my family, a lot of fighting and things of that nature. But like I distinctly remembering that, or I distinctly remember that, and then growing up, in high school and things, like I treated people a certain way because I felt like I had to.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be mad at white people. I was supposed to um, respond to certain events and certain things in a certain way just because that's what I'm supposed to do. Um, while I'm dating a white girl at the time.
Yeah, that, I mean, well, it's funny that your mom said that because I can remember being, middle school and high school and thinking like, oh, I can be friends with this guy, but be careful because at any minute he could just come unhinged.
Mm-hmm.
Like almost like he just can't control it.
Right.
And I think back and go like, I don't remember if anyone particularly said that to me or it was just ingrained to feel that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So pretty much adopted this aggressive posture. Then I got saved, and I started seeing the Bible for what it was. And like there's just so many things that go on, like in scripture, places, like I don't know if people realize this, but the Bible didn't come about in 1776.
Hmm?
The Declaration of Independence.
Well,
No.
You sure that's not debatable?
It didn't. And like just reading it for myself and seeing the different cultures that are taking place, different ethnicities. You have Egypt, you have Cyrene, you have Cyprus, you have Macedonia, you have all of these different Jerusalem.
Right.
Like you have all of these different places, and I'm like, I don't know why, but I think ethnicity is important to God.
Yeah.
I think all of these different cultures are important to God.
That's good.
And I remember telling my friend in Springfield, JJ, I wanted to come out, and this is like I got saved. I've been saved for like 2 years, but I was rapping and doing spoken word and stuff. So the phrase that I came up with, cross culture, the culture of the cross, crosses cultures, that was supposed to be an album title.
Mm-hmm.
And I was going to do different songs from different ethnicities and things of that nature and just make music. So that's where that stemmed from.
Okay.
But it was like, it's not supposed to be the way that it is. And I don't need to look at, first off, I don't need to look at white people as the enemy because I'm very attracted to this white woman
Right.
and I want to marry her and I want to have kids with her and I want to build a life with her. So that won't work.
Yeah.
But also, looking at some of my brothers and sisters who I know love me dearly and who I love dearly, who aren't my color, who don't come from my background, it's important to have a relationship with them.
So that raises a great question of, once you gave your life to Christ, do you feel like people that were not the same color as you pushed unity or still pushed the division of differences as a whole? Because for me, it was very much still a divided, like we both love Jesus.
Yeah.
We both love each other, but from a distance.
Yeah. I think not blatantly.
Yeah. See, mine was pretty blatant. Like I can remember one pastor teaching unequally yoked to us as color. Like if you were white, you should not be marrying a black woman or vice versa because it's unequally yoked, which is always, here was the thing that was always interesting to me in Mississippi. It was always black and white. Like no one ever had a problem with a white man marrying a Hispanic woman or an Asian woman of any sort. Like it was always black and white. Like that's not how God, like I remember, I distinctly remember I was sitting in a Sunday school Bible study and the Sunday school teacher said, I'm not joking, if a red squirrel knows to marry a red squirrel and a gray squirrel knows to marry a gray squirrel, if they can get it right, so can we.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So like, I mean, it was, and like when you're 13, 14, even if you're accepting Jesus, you're like, well, that makes sense. Cause like he's known Jesus longer than me and it's got to be the gospel.
Right.
So like, even for me, like where you honestly started seeking that, I think for so long I am pursuing Christ and just thinking this is the way it's supposed to be.
Right.
Because that's the way it always has been.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it wasn't blatant, I guess, in my context, just because, but there were things like, you're black and you have good theology.
Yeah. No,
you know, and I remember, what does that mean? What do you know, like, what do you mean by that? I'm black and I have, like, it's impossible, or I'm an anomaly because I'm black and I have good theology, you know, and just different things like that that raised questions in me. And I think where I am now, and I think it was, you know, you talk about how God's providence in the season that you were in and adopting Ryan and stuff, how it was like God's divine providence for you to be friends with me. I think it was vice versa as well.
Yeah.
Because when it came to this topic, I still struggle with it. There's times where I get angry with things that I see. I remember, you know, whenever the Trayvon Martin thing happened, Lauren and I had just gotten married, and it was the Michael Brown situation, and I looked at it from a certain standpoint. She looked at it from a certain standpoint, and there was this tension there for both of us. So I don't think I got all the answers.
Right. Well, you saying that, I remember because we were already best friends when the George Floyd thing happened. It was weird for a couple of days for us. Like I think I even called you and said, "Why is this all of a sudden weird?" Like and because I know from my standpoint, it was like, I'm with you. I'm not okay with what happened, but I almost feel like I just need to be quiet. Like, does that make sense? Like, and you even said like, this is, you know, it's just hard.
Yeah.
And like, I didn't know what to do.
Right. You know, and like Lauren always talks about me having dinosaur skin, especially when it comes to this topic, and just having the utmost patience with people. But I think it's more so. KB says in one of his songs, he says, "It ain't thick skin; it's a new heart."
That's good.
So it's not a matter of me having thick skin, because the reality is that I still fall short a lot internally, and I get angry. It's just the reality of, I know that God designed all of us to live in harmony. And I'm talking to Christian brothers and sisters.
Absolutely.
So if you don't like this and you're not a Christian, I get it.
Yes.
If you are a believer, I'm talking to you.
Because would you agree that you would not take the same approach if you didn't know Jesus?
No.
Like we
wouldn't.
wouldn't be sitting here having this conversation.
No.
Like, not that we would hate each other.
It
wouldn't. No.
No. So I'm like, just for contextually speaking, I'm talking to Christian brothers and sisters.
Right.
Devoted Christian brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say Christian brothers and sisters, followers of Jesus.
Yes.
Not. We got to make that distinction now. I'm just saying, because
not Christers.
People call themselves Christians, and come on now. But that's a different topic for another day. But like, it's my heart for this. I want to help people.
Yes.
Like that's who I am now. Like, I want to help people see the realities of the Imago Dei in its fullness.
Yes.
Image of God in its fullness. And show people, first off, racism is not a political issue.
Oh, you gonna go there? Okay. Okay.
It's not, and just because
it's not, even though we've made it.
Yes, just because people speak out on it,
right,
doesn't automatically make them liberal.
Right.
Racism is a gospel issue.
Absolutely. It's literally from Abraham and his children, and like it starts there and has never stopped.
No. So it's a matter of like where I'm at now when it comes to this topic. I just want to help people see the truth and the reality of how God intended things to be and how it's going to be in eternity.
Right.
If you're my brother in Christ and you're white, get used to seeing me.
Because you coming.
We gonna spend forever together.
Yeah.
So if you don't like me now, well, I mean,
but
get used to this face.
Yeah, and I think, I guess for me, and maybe this is a question we can even ask our people, like, what is the hardest thing? This is a good question for our people to comment on. What is the hardest thing about having the conversation of racism with people? And I think me and you have talked about this, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. Go ahead. But like, I know for me and Michelle, when we decided to adopt Ryan, we had already made a decision. We did not want to adopt a white child. From the basic standpoint of, we made white children, right. 2 of them.
Right.
And so we initially, our heart was, we want the gospel in our home. And what better way than to have people of different color in our home? Yeah. Now, did I have any idea what I was signing up for? No. To be honest, like, and people may like, how dare you think this way? But I thought people were gonna be like, man, look, he is so, we're gonna probably get on this later on, but he's so woke, or he's so ahead of his time. Yeah. And quickly I was like, what in the world do I do?
Yeah.
And it's radically changed my home, my friends, my culture, all for the better.
Yeah.
But pain came for the change.
Yeah.
And I think that for a lot of us, if we want change, there has to be patience. And I would say I agree with your wife. Your level of patience in this area is better than mine. Like we both already know that. And yeah, but I mean, it's just, because you talked about your biblical approach. To me, if you have accepted Christ, like you're a genuine Christian, you've accepted Christ.
Yeah.
This is an area that has to change.
Yeah.
Like, you said this a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was so powerful. We we cannot say that we are about change and everyone in our community looks just like us.
Yeah.
Like that's not how God intended it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. And even whenever those tough conversations have to be had, are we, and this is for my black brothers and sisters, right? Are we being patient enough? Because even in sometimes whenever truth is revealed in this situation, and you have a white brother or sister who comes at you a certain type of way, being patient enough.
You fix to talk about me?
I'm about to talk about you. But being patient enough to know, okay, calm down, first off, gather yourself, and this is a beautiful opportunity for a teaching.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So just so that y'all know what I'm talking about.